All right, well, we're glad to be with you tonight. Tonight, I have a good friend of mine. His name is Brother Wes. And tonight, we are going to talk about what's going on at Adams Food Market. And you know that this channel is going to be predominantly talking about what is happening in the International District, what's happening with the crime, the fentanyl, but also too what's happening with the spiritual breakthroughs that are taking place in the International District. So, Wes, you're familiar with the Adams Food Market.
Very, yes.
And what can you tell us briefly about what you know about Adams Food Market?
Well, the cartels are behind a lot of this fentanyl distribution, and they have what they consider their leg men, or the guys that are actually on the street doing the day-to-day hand-to-hand sales. And they that corner where the market is has been a hot spot for them to congregate. And it seems like what they bank on is that there's a lot of confusion there. It's chaotic looking. There's a lot of people walking in and out, a lot of movement there at times. And they have times that they come in there, and I've noticed that I was told by a client that goes there to score his dope that different times, and they tell them, okay, we'll be back, around this time or that time, and they come on early in the morning. It starts real early in the morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning, and they have shifts, actual shifts. It's just like,
Right, yeah. So what you're saying is amongst the on the surface, it's very disorganized, but yet the seedier underbelly part of what's going on there is very organized on top of it all.
Very organized, and they watch it all the time. They keep
and you're saying, and not APD's watching it all the time. You're talking about people that they're out there to make money off of people's suffering, more or less.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going on.
All right.
They I don't know. They're very, very cliquish. It seems like a lot of those people will use that place time after time after time.
Yeah. So
they come in there, and then if they got to wait around for the guy to come, then they're so wore out from the life on the street that a lot of times they just crash out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you get and you'll see it. You can have anywhere from 10 people there and that's usually about from 11 to 1, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, that's
other times you have anywhere from 50 to 100 people there.
Wes, have you ever driven by there late at night?
Oh yeah.
How many poor souls are gathered out there late at night?
I would say about 40 on the average. 45.
Now that's a lot of people. Let's get some just basic information about Adams Food Market. Adams Food Market is obviously located at 7817 Central Avenue. Just this Wednesday, sadly, tragically, unfortunately, January 18th, a woman was shot and killed in the parking lot. It's the 7th homicide. There's been 7 homicide investigations in the last 4 years. On a weekly basis, APD makes arrests that involve fentanyl distribution. There's a lot of felony arrests that take place right there on that property, on that corner. There's firearms are confiscated and taken away. The Adams Food Market has been called the infamous Adams Food Market. It's been called a crime magnet. It's been called a nuisance property, right?
Correct.
In 2023, Tim Keller stated that the problems that have surrounded the Adams Food Market have cost the taxpayers of Albuquerque, that's people like me and you, over $100,000.
I think you could probably double that.
Right.
You know,
so you think that's kind of a
lowball,
modest
very
estimation?
Very modest in my estimation.
Now, just recently, I think it was yesterday, right? There
Correct.
was a man that admitted that he was soliciting, that he was looking for a male prostitute. He was down there, cruising, and he was hit in the head. His wallet was stolen, and his car was taken from him. So we see that there's no wonder it's called a nuisance property, right?
Yes, and that happens. That kind of crime happens there all the time. There's a lot of it, and it's getting worse. The violence in that area is getting more and more. We're seeing more and more of these people getting hurt, getting hit, their cars getting stolen there. There's a lot of stolen cars that come by there where they're where people have stolen vehicles and come through there trying to get rid of them to the guys that are selling the fentanyl.
Yeah,
and the cartels.
And if you looked at the, I saw the story and the footage. They hit that guy pretty hard in the head. It looked It looked like he was
He's very
disoriented.
lucky to even be alive.
Yeah, so
very lucky. They don't care when they assault somebody. It's to put them out of commission so they can do their dirty work, like taking his car, his wallet. So they have to incapacitate him.
Yeah.
And if he's fighting back, he could really get hurt.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
bad. Unfortunately, he did get hit in that, but fortunately, he didn't get killed.
Right. Let me ask you.
Very lucky.
Let me ask you a question tonight, Wes. Is the Adam Food Market to blame for the clientele that comes through their doors? Like, let's put ourselves in the position of the owners of the establishment. Like, is it their fault that for the people that are coming through their doors?
Not for them coming up and coming through their doors. What they are guilty of is inadequate security.
Okay, good.
Very inadequate security. They have some fencing there, but they could carry that on. And I think with the right and with security, they could curtail a lot of it.
Okay.
But at night, especially when they're there, they allow them to come up, and it's continuous. You and I have seen dumpsters on fire there.
Yeah. What are the hours?
Yeah.
I don't. It's not. Is it a 24-hour establishment? Do they run it 24 hours?
No, they don't.
Okay.
They close up about 1, 2 o'clock. It depends on how much business they're getting.
That's still late.
Yeah.
That's still really, really late. And we always have to remember that it's right across the street from the XXX Pussycat Theater. So
right.
You've got quite a variety of
there's human trafficking going on there with women.
It's terrible.
They're very advantageous. They prey on people, and like that gentleman that got hit in the head, he was there looking for a prostitute, looking for sex.
Sure.
And it goes on all the time there. And now they have the cartels have got their hooks in there, and so these guys get these young women and men to prostitute themselves so they can get drugs.
Yeah.
And they oversee it. They're there, and they're very. I was there one time, and I had a friend that his son was out on the street. He has passed on, and I felt obligated to try to help him. His son. He had 2 sons, and I saw one of them at God's Warehouse.
Okay.
And this was back in about September, and I had heard. I used to live in Grants, and these boys are from Cubero, and I went down there looking for him, and I was pulling up and he was back by a dumpster scoring some fentanyl whenever I happened to pull up.
Yeah.
And I honked the horn. He saw my vehicle, and all of a sudden I looked up and there was a very large man coming towards me, and he had a gun in his waistband.
Yeah.
And he came right over to me. He wasn't hesitant, and it was like, "What are you doing? What do you want here?"
Yeah. So real territorial.
Very.
Yeah.
Oh well, they were wondering what I was doing there.
Yeah.
And I, to tell you the truth, it was scary because if I didn't answer him right, well, he might pull that gun and shoot me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because he sure let me know he had it, and it was a threatening gesture that he put out to me, like, "You're going to tell me what you're doing here, you know, and if I don't like it, you're going to..."
Or you may not get out of here.
Yeah.
Now, just to be fair, you know, is the Adam Food Market to blame for the clientele that comes through the door? A store must serve those who are in their community. One of the things that we're trying to do is reduce stigma. So reducing the stigmas that exist about the international district, some call it the war zone. You know, we want to be clear that not everyone who goes into Adam's Market is smoking fentanyl. Not everyone that goes into Adam's Market is doing illicit street drugs. Not everyone that goes into Adam's Market is, you know, cruising for prostitutes. You know, there are people who go into Adam's Food Market who are buying milk, medicine, soda pop, you know, etc. We know that they've got a head shop with the Pyrex pipes and things like that.
And that seems to be the clientele that they want to cater to now.
Okay, well, good. Explain that a little bit.
Well, apparently because of the chaos and all of the violence and the stigma that's already there, and people seeing that, the local people do not shop there anymore.
Yeah, nobody in their right mind
goes in there.
No, because see, I work in that area.
95% is.
I wouldn't go in there. I've gone in there with you when when I first got to Albuquerque, and I was like, and I'd seen some stuff on the news about it, and I said, let's go in there. And one thing that I was really surprised is they didn't have alcohol. They didn't sell alcohol, and I thought, wow. But I did notice that they have the little bubblers, they have the little glass straight shooters. So it's very convenient for you to just buy your fentanyl if you don't have anything to smoke it. Go into Adam Market, and how many of those little bubblers do you think they sell?
All right, it's enough to pay the rent.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I'm sure they pull in quite a bit off of SNAP and food stamps, right? They take food stamps.
Yeah, that is a big draw to them because they do the EBT, and the people that are involved in this, a lot of them depend on that for food and existence, actually.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of trading of it. I know people that have gone down there
and black market, right?
Yeah,
black market
trading EBT 2 for 1.
Yeah. You know, that's the old prison terminology, right?
Correct.
2 for 1. Yeah.
2 for 1, and people know that people have it there, and they have regulars. There's people that go down there and pick these people that are on the street down there and take them. They go to the store with them. These people supply them with the EBT card. They go in and shop, come out and give them cash for what they've used.
Yeah, for the exchange. Yeah. Okay.
And it's not being, and a lot of it's not being bought at that market. A lot of it is being done at other full service markets.
Well, it's like black market commerce, right?
Yeah.
Wes, is it fair to shut down the market to those who are not engaging in the criminal activity or the illicit drug use?
It's not fair to anybody.
Okay,
you know, it's a no-win situation because you have that clientele and that crowd there, and they've established themselves in that area and right there. And it seems like, well, they come down and they'll disperse them and harass the people that are there, but they come back, they're there.
All right.
And the reason being is because he allows them to come on his property.
Yeah.
And, you know, once they're on that property and they're there, the APD cannot touch them.
Good. This is the next question. I just want to. The next question we're going to talk about is where is Albuquerque Police Department in all this? You know, Wes, I remember that in the 1990s and the early 2000s, APD operated like Rowdy Brown shirts in the war zone. If you had a cracked windshield, you were going to get pulled over. If you didn't have a license plate, you were going to get pulled over.
Oh, yeah.
There was racial profiling. There was extreme profiling. If you looked like you were on drugs, if you looked like you were on heroin or crack cocaine, you were going to get pulled over. You were going to get shook down. If you had a warrant, you were going to jail, right? Now, there's a percentage of the population that feels that Grisham and Keller have tied APD's hands as it concerns cleaning up the international district. So where's Albuquerque Police Department in all this?
Well, now our mayor has, I think, realized some of the mistakes that he's made in this, and people, I believe, have put the pressure on the mayor's office and that to do something about this.
Yeah.
And APD comes down there now and they can roust them and come out, but what they're really their hand, unless the person is engaged in a criminal activity right there and they witness it, you know.
Yeah, they can't really do anything.
They really can't do anything. They might, you know, they go over and they search them a lot of times. They'll go out, but they really can't do anything because it's sold right there. You know, the pipes and everything, and that's all they have. That's all they have to say. I just went in and bought it.
Yeah. Now,
I just got it right here, so that's what I'm doing here. You see.
Wes, do you think that those who are smoking fentanyl, engaging in prostitution, committing violent crime, and living on the sidewalk in and around the Adam Food Market and that vicinity there, do you think people are really afraid of APD down there like they were in the 90s?
No, I was, I'm a recovering addict, and I guess the terminology that most people would understand. And I have a lot of history in that area. A lot of history.
Yeah, that's why I brought you tonight, because I know
I've been
that you know
there since the early 80s on a regular basis. And I was a property holder there. We had a apartment complex. I had 13 units there, and the other guy had 12. When I was using and distributing methamphetamines in that area, it was we were very aware of the Albuquerque Police Department.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They were. We had to really watch it, and you know, I mean, they were doing a very good job.
Sure.
As far as enforcement and coming up, there was a lot of people that got harassed and got pulled over, got busted. I don't know how I never got busted there, but it was just a stroke of luck. That's all, you know.
Right.
But I know that even in those times, the violence and what the type of trafficking, there's always been prostitution in that area.
Yeah.
And now it's totally it was more, the girls were more, there was a pimp, and you know, they had areas and they would go. It was very organized in the 80s and 90s. You say territorial, these were landowners in that area.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
And they were using that just as we did. You know, in my apartment complex, you know, I rented to users.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it got around that I had an apartment complex over there, and a lot of guys were working guys, but they were users.
Yeah.
So they were good clientele.
Sure.
And you don't have that now. You have more of a really hand-to-mouth, day-to-day existence for them, and these people that's all they live for.
And it's that fentanyl.
No, it's that fentanyl. They can't do anything else when they're on it because it just incapacitates them.
Yeah, yeah.
Completely. They can't function, you know, in a working situation or in the real world.
This is one of the big questions, Wes. Will closing the Adam Food Market stop the drug use and the criminal activity on Pennsylvania and Central Avenue?
No, it will not.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have here. I have first of all, if the food market was ever closed, it would have to be fenced off, right? Because you've noticed that in the International District, any piece of land that is vacant, there's going to be a tent, there's going to be a camp, there's going to be fentanyl, there's going to be prostitution. So if they did close it, they would have to fence it off. But my concern is if the Adam Food Market was closed, would the mob or the rabble, would they just simply cross Central Avenue, or would they move back in towards Chico?
I think that you would see a disbursement, and once they checked it out, I guess you would say, to see where their fulcrum point could be, where they could do their business. This is pretty, these cartels they're very organized. They know the area now, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
looks like to me, and they have a lot of people involved over there.
See,
I was really surprised.
And this is something I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad you brought up the thing with the cartels, is because I understand that the food market, that all the activity exists and it centers and it swirls around all that. But I think what people aren't really addressing, and you're bringing this up, is several people have to be selling fentanyl, large amounts of fentanyl, within close proximity of the Adam Food Market and that XXX Theater. There's got to be some, like you said, it may not be a house, but it's become a hot spot. It's become a spot where you can drop off. It's a spot where you can pick up. So, sometimes I don't really have an opinion whether the Adam Food Market. I don't really know if it's just that simple, that if we just close it off, that if we were to just close the Adam Food Market, that all of our problems would just disappear. I think it's a lot more complicated than that, don't you?
Very much, very, very, very much. You have these the people. It looks like on the distribution end of this are not living on the street right there, except for the amount of time that they're out there. And from what I could see, there's a lot of bicycles involved with it, to get around in the area.
Yeah.
And you see these little soldiers that they have out on the streets, and these are kids. They're carrying guns.
Yeah,
it's just
different.
like that. Yeah, and they have immersed themselves with the local population there. The cartels have.
Okay.
And the different, you have different nationalities in the area. The International District got that name from that.
Sure.
There's a diverse cultural
there's
going on there. There's a lot of different cultures there, and they have immersed themselves and eat in a lot of them, and they use those people and those things so that they can. They're happy with them. They're not. They're not turning them in.
Well, people are afraid, because if you turn them in, you're gonna.
If they find out, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Wes. Where does the church and the ministries around the Adam Food Market fit into the equation? Where does the church fit into all of this?
Well,
because we've got to shine a light. We've got to have some kind of a hope. But where does the church, and there's a lot of ministries that are trying their best to do what they can in that area. So where do they fit into this equation?
Well, we're there, and they're feeding these people on a regular basis. We have a ministry that is using our kitchen right now.
Sure.
That come down there and feed off the road down there.
Yeah.
And they serve a lot of people. And I was really surprised at how many they do serve.
Yeah.
And there's becoming more of that I can see happening. But where the church, I believe, it needs to do is, AA, NA, all of these programs, these rehabs are based on the concept that having had a spiritual awakening.
Okay, yeah.
Having had a spiritual awakening, And I can say for myself, until I had that, I relapsed continuously.
Yeah.
Continuously. You know, it was, you know, I would get sober for somebody else, for my wife, or, you know, all kinds. I'd get in trouble, and then, you know, things would be happening. I was a very mean drunk and, you know, drug addict. And they have to have this spiritual awakening in order to come to grips with what they are.
Okay.
And what they have to do to overcome this stigma that they're, you know, that's put upon them.
Yeah.
And the doctors say, you know, it's hereditary, it's this, it's that. But I know for a fact that you have to have that spiritual uplifting in your soul that allows you, and you can have hope and see light at the end of the tunnel.
Now, Wes, many have. There's been several that have said this, and they have put this. These are their thoughts and some of their reflections. They say that many ministers and ministries in the international district, in and around the Adam Food Market, that it seems as if some of these ministers and the ministries, that they've lost their first love. They've lost their intimate connection as it concerns worshiping God. Yeah, so
it's just become it looks like to me a lot of it has just become a business. It's and I say that not as selling something, buying something, but it's like, okay, we're gonna feed, we're here, but there really isn't an uplifting of the soul.
Yeah,
there's no soul. They're not able to reach these people because they're not filled with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, and that's where that would come in with the first love, that there's these ministries there, there's these churches there, but then we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to say, well, why isn't it working? So it is possible that they've left, that some of these ministers and these ministries, that they've left their first love because there's no fruit, there's no conversion, there's no breakthrough. Now, to be fair, the people in that area, in and around the Adam Food Market, they have a part to play as it concerns the gospel not having a huge impact in that particular part of the community.
Correct.
Because a lot of people that are in and around the Adam Food Market, you know, I work in that area. We've gone down there. We've tried to give resources. And we were down there one time. You remember when they had the illegal encampment there on the corner of Pennsylvania and Chico, right? It started with like one tent. And nothing was done. And then there was like 8. And there were the guys on the bikes, and they were just selling the fentanyl out of the tent.
Yeah.
And we went down there, and we were handing out resources, and we were trying to tell people about Jesus. And one of the things that I'll never forget is one of the little guys. He was a little drug dealer, and he says, "We don't want your Jesus around here. We're just trying to sell dope." So there has to be a hunger and a desire that the ministers and the ministries have for God, but then the people that are engulfed in the miry clay and that are engulfed in the addiction and the suffering and the sorrow, like they have to want help too, spiritually speaking, right?
And it's been my experience, and I have a lot of it in that area and in this field, and we need to, what happens is you need to install into them, hey, it can happen. I think, you know, we had a little Daryl, our friend Daryl.
Yeah, Brother Daryl.
Brother Daryl.
From Rags to Riches, Daryl.
Yeah. And I remember when we were talking to him, you know, at the church, and he was when we were first there, it was like, oh, I've heard this story before. You know, I'm still on the street. Nobody's helped me.
Yeah, and that's what we get a lot, right? And we hear that
all the time. 80% of the time, that's what I hear coming out of them. Yeah. Whenever I'm first talking to them, and they just don't have any confidence in us, because in the church, because there's been so many times that the church has turned their back on them.
So you're saying that not only the unhoused and the and the fentanyl users, they've lost their faith in the system. They've lost their faith in the resources and all the programs, but they've lost their faith in the church as well.
Correct. And you can, there is a clientele, fentanyl clientele and drug clientele that comes through there that are not on the street there, but they're driving up and getting it there. They're going down there and scoring and going back home.
Yeah.
Instead of, and they're not involved in any church or anything, and it's what's keeping this thing going. You know, it really is, because they don't, the everyday sales down to the homeless and that, it's continuous, and it's pretty good money, but it's really hard work for the cartels to do. They would much rather have somebody, you know, come by on a car and, hey, here's my number, call me, I'll meet you, things like that. And what they can get there, though, is that, and some of these girls I talk to that are out prostituting themselves, you know, their bodies to support their drug habits, they don't like what they're doing.
No, absolutely.
They do not. They don't like what they're doing, but they have turned their back on the church because we've failed them. Yeah. We as a religious community, as a church community, we have failed them.
And see, we can never begin to succeed until we admit that we have failed. And what I've seen is that most of the ministries in that area, most of the churches in that area, they won't admit defeat. You know what I believe the Lord showed me about what's taking place there with the churches and the ministries in and around the Adam Food Market in that community is the churches in the ministries. They won't put down the sword, and they won't put down the shield, and they refuse to pick up the Urim and the Thummim. You remember David was a warrior for God, but there came a time when David had to put the shield down. He had to put the sword down, and he had to call for the priest to bring him the Urim and the Thummim so he could seek God, get a vision, get reconnected with God in order to be effective in battle. And I think a lot of these churches and these ministries, they love the sword and they love the shield, but they've lost their connection, their true connection to God, and they don't know what to do anymore. And I think that's why it's become a business.
It takes such a toll on our community as pastors and workers in the area, you know, at these missions and these, what we call a soup kitchen, or whatever, and they're sitting there because these people that they're dealing with are burnt out on it. You know, they come there and the only thing they want out of you is a meal or whatever they can get right then, you know, and it's depressing at times. You get caught up in it and you fail and you see these people and they don't change, they don't go.
And if you don't have the Spirit of God, and if you don't seek the God with intensity, constantly, like this unhoused and these drugs and all this and this darkness, because it's powers of darkness, like it will eat your lunch. It will tear you to pieces.
Amen.
And if you but you know what? I believe there's a lot of ministers like they can't see that. Like they've just gotten so numb. They've gotten so used to the routine. They've gotten so used to the grants, and they've just gotten so used to just coming in and showing up and sitting down and doing all these things. But it's killing them and it's tearing them to pieces. And that's why they're not being effective anymore, right?
Very much.
Wes, there's a tremendous cost that the church must be willing to pay in order for breakthrough to take place in and around the Adam Food Market. You remember the story of Matthew 17 when Jesus is up on the mountain and he's transfigured. Peter, James, and John are with him. They come down from the mountain, and the first thing they hit is a father comes to Jesus and he says, "This is my son. He's demon possessed. He's an epileptic. This whatever grabs a hold of him and it seizes him and it tries to throw him into the fire and it tries to drown him." He says, "I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cast it out." You know, and I believe that and remember that Jesus helps the man and he drives out the demonic forces in the boy, and then the disciples come and they say, "Lord, why couldn't we do it? Lord, why why weren't we successful? And Jesus says, because you have little faith. And he also says, this kind can only come out by prayer and fasting. Right?
And
why won't these ministries, why won't these churches pray and fast?
They say that they pray and fast,
but there's no evidence of it.
Exactly.
I shouldn't say there's absolutely none. There's little sparks here and there.
To be
but on the whole surface, like that's what we're trying to get at is like, and I'm just as guilty as anybody else. But like what we're doing doesn't seem to be working. So
there's something about. Okay, in that area and here in Albuquerque, there is the Care Campus.
Yeah,
and I have a friend that's working there now, and you know they have enough resources there that these people want to get clean. They want to go into some place nice and you know be able to come, and we are going to have to do that for them. We don't have to put all of these regulations in front of them to help them clean up. We have to get them cleaned up first, and then we can come up with the how you function in everyday life.
Yeah,
and it has to be a Christian pool, because God is the only hope they have. Yeah. Jesus is the only hope any of us have.
And we have to work together with we have to work together with the resources as we close tonight. You know, sandwiches. Handing out sandwiches isn't going to break the chain. Handing out sandwiches and distributing food is important, but it's not going to drive back the darkness that exists in the International District. Resources, they're not going to drive back the powers of darkness, but they are important, and we have to continue to strive. The church must continue to strive with secular means in order to help people to get cleaned up. Blankets and coats and tents and hot coffee's not going to bring liberty to those men and women and the kids that are suffering out there, and especially the young Navajo kids. You know, they're suffering out there. But
really bad. It's really, and you're
Native American.
I'm a Cherokee Indian. My wife is Navajo, and we have seen the devastation that this has brought upon our nation. And
no one's talking about that.
No, you don't hear that.
But
you don't hear that, but it's evident. You go out there. Even at our church on our Tuesday night feeding.
I've had Church of God.
I've had a lot of Native young men come through the doors, and they come and eat, and they're there, but they just want to, okay, what can you give me? What can I do? And they don't believe me when I tell them, hey, come on over here and we'll try to work. I'll get you in someplace where you can go and clean up for a while and get yourself spiritually correct.
Yeah.
With the God that we all know, and his name is Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Jesus is our answer. Yeah. And so our final thought tonight is, in order the church is going. In order for the church to turn the corner, we're going to have to see Jesus in a fresh new way, the same way that Peter, James, and John saw Jesus.
Amen.
And then we can come down from the mountain.
Exactly.
Because if you look at the Old Testament, Moses ascended up on the mountain. That's where he received the law. That's where he received, God showed him what to do. He received a pattern. He received a blueprint. So until the church and these ministries are willing to see Jesus, and they do see Jesus in a fresh, new way, we will continue to be unproductive. But the good news is tonight, always remember that the church has the ability to usher in supernatural power and breakthrough. So I appreciate you being on with me. This is Brother Wes.
Thank you.
We've been talking tonight about what's going on at Adams Food Market. Homicides are happening out there. People are being murdered out there. If you're a Christian, take some time in your daily prayer time and pray for that area, because prayer will make the difference. Amen. And Jesus is the answer. Good night. God bless you.
Thank you.